We often think about why there is stress at all. I mean, if it has such horrible impact on us, why would God or nature bestow this horrid thing on us? Well, God or nature never does something without a purpose. And hence, stress too has a purpose. The whole idea of stress is to help us prevent any kind of harm. It was essential for survival. Let's go back about 2000 years. If we were faced by a threat, say a predator, let's take an example of a lion, is in front of us, our stress response kicks in and allows us either to fight off or run away from this predator. Now let's look at what exactly happens. How does it allow us to run or fight? Well, the minute you see a lion in front of you, your brain perceives it as a potential threat. Your sympathetic nervous system, or the accelerator of your body, gets activated. It sends a cocktail of hormones throughout your whole body, sending messages to activate to various organs. And hence, it creates physical, emotional, and mental changes within you, which allows you to actually either fight or flight. You would have heard this term, right? Fight or flight. This is because of the stress response. Now, if we did not have this stress response, we would probably just stand there in front of the lion and be eaten. Isn't the stress response important then? So let's look at what exactly happens. What happens in our body? When the sympathetic nervous system activates and sends these cocktails of hormones throughout our body, a couple of things happen within us, a few changes. Our heart rate increases so that it can pump more blood throughout our body. Our oxygen increases. How? Because we are breathing faster. So more oxygen is going throughout our body. Our muscles tense up to allow for us to run away from that threat. We start sweating so that our body can become cool and also become slippery, so that if something catches us, if a predator catches us, we can slip away. There are also other changes like the glucose synthesis within our body increases. What it does is it gives us energy so that we have that energy to run away or deal with the situation that we're dealing. We also have all the blood going away from the organs and moving to our extremities, which means towards our hands and legs. What happens by this? There's more strength in our hands and legs. You know how typically we say when there is a fearful or a situation or a threat, we suddenly feel like there's a surge of energy within us and we can do more than we normally can do. This is what the stress response does. It gives us superhuman powers for that time, just in order to survive. Now, think of all these aspects that I've told you: increased heart rate, increased breathing, slippery, more energy in your body, better circulation to your muscles. All of this, if you had a lion in front of you, would you think this would be useful? Do you think it will actually help you survive? Yes, right? But the problem is that it is the same stress response that gets triggered even if the situation is not a physical threat, but an imaginary threat, or an emotional threat, or even a thought. The stress response gets triggered by our perception. So let's say instead of a lion, our boss is calling us into the cabin. We will pretty much have the same physiological changes, the same changes in our emotional state, in our mental state, but we can't do anything with them. And these get accumulated over a period of time. This accumulation leads to things like heart problems or high BP, difficulty in digesting, low appetite. Why is all this happening? Do you see the correlation? It's actually the heart rate increases to help you circulate more blood, but over a period of time, when you keep having this increased heart rate, it'll give you heart issues. Correct? So this is the problem, that we do not have any physical stressors. We don't really often face a lion or a predator or even a threat in a physical form which we really need to fight or go away from or run away from. But we do face these small stressors in which our physiological responses are pretty much useless. And all these physiological responses accumulated over a period of time create havoc within our body. Now, what also comes to mind here is, why is it that we have more stress today than we had, say, 50 years back? There was more physical threat of, say, not having enough food, of predators, of wars. Then why is there more stress today? Well, because we had a physical threat and our sympathetic nervous system went up, had the whole stress response, and then the threat would go away, where our parasympathetic nervous system would become activated. We became relaxed, calmed down, we restored our energy, and more time was given to repair whatever damage was done. However, these days, the stressors are small, but they are existing all the time. So remember I told you about the stressor can be emotional or thought or imagined. So let us look at examples of these kind of stressors. First of all, we have so many screens around us. There is an overload of stimulus. Every 2 minutes, we are looking at some or the other video, some or the other television show, news, and all of these are giving us a sensory input, an overload of sensory input. And this puts us into a stimulated or an activated sympathetic nervous system situation. So our sympathetic nervous system is constantly activated. Now, it's also activated by a lot of other things. Have you seen what comes on news? All the news is always talking about impending doom. Something is about to get to you. Something bad is going to happen. And now that news channels are 24/7, you keep seeing this all the day through. So again, your sympathetic nervous system is pretty much activated even though there is no potential threat right in front of you. The other problem is time. We are constantly running to finish things on time. We are constantly fearing that we won't have enough time. We are multitasking. We are going everywhere and trying to fit our so many activities into this one packed day. This again stimulates our sympathetic nervous system. We're constantly running. We're not giving ourselves time to calm down, to relax. Our car is going on at 170 constantly, day in and day out, 24/7 and 7 days a week. So what happens? It takes a toll on us. Our sympathetic nervous system is constantly activated. Now let's look at another interesting example. Even the thoughts that we have are of constant worry. Do I have enough today? What happened yesterday? What will happen tomorrow? We are worrying about this. We are fearing the next phone call. Even the constant source of calls or messages on our phone activates the sympathetic nervous system because it requires us to respond. It's a stimulus that is basically requiring us to respond to. And when we have to respond to a stimulus, remember, the whole stress response starts playing. So imagine we are continuously surrounded by so many stressors, so many stimulus, and our sympathetic nervous system is constantly active. This is the reason for our stress. Stress response in itself is not really bad. It's very important for us. But if we allow the stress response to get activated on every little thing, on every phone call, on every news, on every series that we see, then we will end up being stressed, or rather in the terminology, distressed.